editor-in-chief of Two-Way, longtime ABC News political director, author of Game Change, among other #1 New York Times best-selling books. One of the reasons I got into covering politics. Mark, it's always good to see you. Thank you for dressing up for us. We rarely see you in a suit and tie.
Good evening. It's all AI generated. I'm wearing a T-shirt, but sure.
Oh, well, but however it happens, we're good with it.
Yeah.
Did Ted Cruz suddenly become a man of principle, or is this a political calculation?
He's a badly misunderstood figure. He's an intellectual. He is a principled guy. Like all politicians, he hasn't always gone with the most principled position, but it never surprises me when he takes a stand because he's a deep thinker and steeped in the traditions of constitutional law and the great American traditions. Again, I'm not saying he always chooses right or always goes with what he knows is right, but when he does, it doesn't surprise me.
And do we look at this as a way of him separating himself from MAGA?
I don't think so. I think that he sees his brand as doing what he thinks is the right thing to do. And remember, MAGA is a complicated beast. It's not conservative always. It's not always the majority position of the country. It's not always a winning general election position. And I think Ted Cruz often will see cases like, for instance, defense of the First Amendment or opposition to using government power to punish someone for speech. I think he believes in that, but I also think he sees it as a long-term, more viable position, maybe not playing to the MAGA crowd in the moment, but long-term, a viable general election stance.
See if you think I have this right, that for the Republicans, Vance is the heir apparent unless Trump has a miserable next couple of years, which, as you pointed out, would decide things. So, therefore, Cruz has to sort of move the chess pieces behind the scenes, kind of like being ready on deck, to quote the Pitbull song, waiting for the rebound.
This is not a normal situation in our lifetimes, at least, in the modern era. There's never been a vice president who's on trajectory to be positioned to run unchallenged. The last three vice presidents who were interested in being president after the top of the ticket was term limited out, George H.W. Bush, Al Gore, and Joe Biden, were not supported in the nomination process by the president, and to say the least. They didn't even endorse them, let alone go all out. JD Vance is the chair of the Republican National Committee Finance Committee. He's given full authority within the White House to work on very big issues. He's got a political operation that's not shackled the way Bush, Gore, and Biden's operations were shackled. And if Donald Trump endorses him, and I believe, based on my reporting, that he will, I believe he'll win the nomination by acclamation. And that's based not just on my sense of things, but in talking to very senior Republicans in the party, including some who would like to see other candidates run or are very close to other potential candidates. They believe, as I do, based on my reporting, that on this trajectory, we will have a nomination process unlike any of us have ever seen, where it is a handoff from the president to the vice president.
No, makes sense if that's why he picked JD Vance as the younger man to take up the mantle or the baton, if you will. It's different, right, on the Democratic side. It is a complete all-out scrum. But if we follow the money, this is from the Free Press's reporting, the real power in terms of fundraising is on the left, starting with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, $4.4 million on hand for someone who is a incumbent, relatively junior New York Democrat. Is that where the progressive left is, where the power, the energy, the momentum is on the Democratic Party?
More than ever, but it doesn't mean they'll produce the nominee for president for a variety of reasons. I think that there's a huge tendency to assume that because Trump did what he did as an outsider, as someone who'd never run for public office or hadn't been in elective office, that the parties are both capable of and maybe even destined to nominate someone like that. And I just don't think that's the case, because Trump is a special case. And just to compare Trump and AOC, Trump was involved in national debates at a very high level for decades. That's not true of AOC. And I think there's a reason why Trump was able to win 2 presidentials and win his party's nomination twice, a bunch of factors that don't apply to AOC.
Fair enough. Mondami, though, I think has surprised all of us. Andrew Cuomo, and I think this is one of the most remarkable ads. We have it in War Notes. It's out on Twitter. This is the ad that he put out, that Cuomo put out, and then took it down almost immediately, which I can't quite figure out unless maybe it was a way to sort of get it amplified more because somehow it was this thing that he took down. Here's the end of the ad that we showed you the beginning of in the monologue.
I'm a criminal. I'm a criminal. I'm a criminal.
I'm a criminal.
Yep. I'm a criminal. For Zoran. For Zoran Mamdani.
I didn't have a real job until I was 30, but sure, give me the keys to the city. What's the worst that can happen?
I can't figure out why he took it down, and number one, but number two, why it took him so long to put it up in the first place.
Well, look, campaigns, an ad like that's not going to be made by a traditional ad maker, right? It's going to be made by a kid on a MacBook. And there's lots to say about that ad regarding the future of political communication, political ads. Everybody's talking about it because it's the first of its kind in some ways. But in the context of this race, it's also the reason why it's great for the Cuomo campaign is because people are now talking about the issue that represents his biggest weakness. The extent he has a chance to lose this race, it's over the kind of imagery and emotion that is on offer in that advertisement. So I think that we'll see how much attention it gets tomorrow. Today, it got quite a bit of attention, and people are talking about it because the concept of an AI ad that's so fascinating and compelling. But again, they're also talking about Mondami's relationship to law enforcement, his relationship to the criminal justice system that represents, I think, one of his biggest vulnerabilities, and the Cuomo campaign thinks that as well.
Yeah, stunning in every way. People got to go watch it. It's wild.
Yeah.
Mark, thank you very much. As always, I could talk to you all day, and our viewers get to watch you on two-way, twice a day. Thank you very much, my friend.
Good to see you, Bal.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.